So the Justice Department today announced almost $15 billion in fraud in our healthcare system that they were able to expose and potentially stop. Also, a new mobile app is on the market helping migrants evade ICE arrests. We're going to get into both of these stories, show you what both sides are saying, and then give you the bottom line.
The U.S. Justice Department is holding a news conference on the, quote, largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the Department of Justice's history, charging more than 320 people in schemes allegedly totaling more than $14 billion.
This enforcement action involves the seizure of cash, as well as luxury vehicles and properties, returning real money to American taxpayers and to our government healthcare programs. As part of this takedown, we've identified and charged defendants operating from Russia, Eastern Europe, Pakistan, and other foreign countries. These individuals have infiltrated our healthcare system to steal American taxpayer dollars. As just one example, we dismantled a scheme involving a sophisticated operation run from Russia and Eastern Europe that strategically bought dozens of medical supply companies in the United States and submitted more than $10 billion in fraudulent healthcare claims to Medicare.
Well, the DOJ says 96 of those people charged were licensed medical professionals.
Okay, so let's get this straight. Number one, you have licensed medical professionals a part of this ridiculous scam. Number two, you have Democrats more obsessed with DOJ employees having access to personal data versus the real scammers that you just heard from the Justice Department. And number three, this is why we are partnered with today's sponsor, Chapter. We're talking about unbiased, independent Medicare advisors that only has one mission in life: to help you find the right plan that fits your needs. So it doesn't matter whether it's your parents or grandparents or you are the person who's seeking to get on Medicare. It's no question that it's complicated and confusing. And then when you hear an announcement like this from the Justice Department, it can almost leave you feeling defeated. So all you have to do is call them at 323-431-5200 or hit the link in the description below. I'm telling you, this is a call that is worth your time. You deserve it. You've been paying into this program, and it could save you thousands of dollars. And now what I want to do at this point is show you also what Dr. Oz had to say, which I think is stunning. Take a listen.
It is, and you'll hear this said by all of us, and we should, the largest Department of Justice healthcare fraud takedown in history. The fact that it's even possible that you could have $15 billion to play in this endeavor is itself shameful. But that's how we're being attacked now, and it's not done by small-time operators. As you're hearing about and you will read about, these are organized syndicates who are designing to hurt America. And why do they hurt our healthcare system? Well, CMS is probably the largest target of all, responsible for about $1.7 trillion of disbursements. So it's a big target on our side. And they can pierce the veil of protection by just getting identifier numbers from our seniors or Medicaid recipients or others, and thus use those tools, use you, the American people, to hurt us. What we're doing today is changing the paradigm. Not just going after bad guys and putting them behind bars, but actually getting ahead of these schemes so the money never leaves our bank account. Because by the time we find out that these criminals have stolen and the money has left the building, it's already offshore somewhere in some foreign country's vaults where foreign leaders are rejoicing in the fact they took advantage of the American people.
And here's a visual graphic from the Department of Justice that really lays out the workflow that was involved in this $10 billion scheme. And it's just disheartening. Once again, you know, politically, they're so divisive, right? We live in this time where people are so tribal. They lose sight of what's actually happening in the world, right? You have people scamming Medicare for over $10 billion a year. And then I have two more points for you here. CMS successfully prevented the organization from receiving all but approximately $41 million of the approximately $4.45 billion that was scheduled to be paid by Medicare. Meaning what? $4.45 billion worth of fraudulent payments were going to be paid by Medicare. Secondly, in another action involving foreign influence, charges were filed in the Northern District of Illinois in connection with $703 million scheme in which Medicare beneficiaries' identification numbers and other confidential health information were allegedly obtained through theft and deceptive marketing.
This case really underscores, Chris, is that U.S. government programs, particularly healthcare programs, are being targeted by international fraudsters, by transnational criminal groups using stolen identities, in part because it's pretty easy for them to do. And Dr. Mehmet Oz, who heads the agency that runs Medicare and Medicaid, today appeared to suggest that they were changing the way they do business. They're trying to implement artificial intelligence and other technology to stop these dollars from going out the door, to stop some of this fraud. The Justice Department also announced what it called a fraud data fusion center to try to put together more information on the identities of these clients, because it's been just too easy to date, Chris, for fraudsters to bill the United States government and make off with billions of dollars.
These criminals didn't just steal someone else's money. They stole from you. Every fraudulent claim, every fake billing, every kickback scheme represents money taken directly from the pockets of American taxpayers who fund these essential programs through their hard work and sacrifice. And when criminals defraud these programs, they're not just committing theft. They're driving up our national deficit and threatening the long-term viability of healthcare for seniors, disabled Americans, and our most vulnerable citizens.
So what's the bottom line? It doesn't matter if you're a senior citizen and you're looking to get Medicare, or you're someone like me who's not involved in that and I'm just online. It's easy to scam all of us at any point using technology. This is why you have to be paranoid, and you also have to exercise some common sense. For example, on my YouTube channel, below this video, you will probably have someone that will leave a comment asking you to call them at a particular number, claiming to be Devori Darkins. Now let's stop and really think for ourselves. Why would I put a comment below asking you to call me? I would never do that. The bottom line is this: they are finding ways to catch you off guard and to scam you. So be paranoid, be vigilant, think for yourself. If you're paranoid or confused, don't respond. I would rather not respond than to get scammed, if you know what I mean. Okay, so let's go to our next story that proves once again we're in disturbing times. This is breaking news. A mobile app has been launched that shows where ICE agents are at in your neighborhood. Here's CNN talking about it. Take a listen.
As the Trump administration steps up ICE raids and mass deportations, one tech developer is pushing back with an app designed to track ICE activity in real time. It's called ICE Block, and it's controversial to say the least. CNN's Claire Duffy is with us now. How does this work, Claire, and what are the legal implications?
Yeah, John, I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform, and he said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers. So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether if they want. So you open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report an ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data. And what I think is really interesting about this in this moment is we've seen so many of the biggest leaders in tech supporting President Trump. But Aaron is sort of an example of the fact that there are people within the tech industry who are really resistant to Trump's policies. I asked him what he would say to those tech leaders who, for example, were at the inauguration. Here's what he told me. Take a listen.
I understand that you have shareholders to report to. I understand that you have employees that need their paychecks. But at what point do you say enough is enough?
And John, I should say that ICE did not respond when I asked them about this platform and about Aaron's opposition to their activity.
All right, before we even respond to the story, her last comment, she said ICE did not respond. But then ICE puts up on X, CNN never reached out to ICE for comment. If they did, we would have provided this statement. And it says this, that CNN's promotion of an ICE spotting app is reckless and irresponsible. Advertising an app that basically paints a target on federal law enforcement officers' backs is sickening. My officers and agents are already facing a 500% increase in assaults, and going on live television to announce an app that lets anyone zero in on their location is like inviting violence against them with a national megaphone. CNN is willfully endangering the lives of officers who put their lives on the line every day and enabling dangerous criminal aliens to evade U.S. law. Is this simply reckless journalism or overt activism? Is their question. Now, just initially, before I show you what the spokesperson from DHS had to say about this, my thing is this. The guy claims, well, I don't want them to interfere with ICE operations. I don't want people to get violent. Yeah, but you're giving them the information they would need to get violent. So how does that make sense?
There's a new app that someone has come up with to spot ICE, basically giving people an alert that ICE is coming. I don't know exactly how the app works, but I know that the Department of Homeland Security and the ICE director, Tim Lyons, is worried about this, concerned. And can you tell us your thoughts about this? Do you think that it is meant to at least give people a heads up so that they can get away from ICE, but also concern for the ICE men and women in uniform in addition to that?
Dana, absolutely. Our ICE enforcement officers are seeing a 500% increase in assaults against them. And a lot of this is because politicians like AOC, like Governor Tim Walz, like Gavin Newsom, demonize our ICE enforcement officers and give them free passes. And examples like these apps are absolutely obstructing justice. What our ICE enforcement officers are doing is enforcing the rule of law. If these rioters, these activists, and these politicians don't like the law, they should change it. Don't go after our ICE law enforcement. It's disgusting, it's wrong, and it's un-American.
Okay, yeah, that brings me to a story that I heard from a family friend of mine where he shared his run-in with ICE, works on a farm, migrants work under them. They've been working there for almost a decade now. And ICE showed up the other day and took him away, okay? And he was disturbed by it, didn't like it. And so this brings me to a couple of points that both sides politically need to accept. Number one, President Trump wants to deport every single criminal legal alien out of this country, but there's only one problem. Sanctuary city policies don't allow that to happen. Why? It's because local law enforcement cannot collaborate with ICE. So you're telling me if a police officer arrested an illegal alien who committed a crime, he cannot call up ICE and say, hey, I have this illegal alien who committed this crime. Can you come pick him up and get him out of our country? Yeah, that's not a reality. And because it's not a reality, it takes me to point number two. So what is the next logical step? I don't know. Go after people who are in the country unlawfully. Doesn't matter if they committed a crime. The fact is, whether they had their papers and it expired, or they crossed the border illegally and they're just hanging around, they're going to be deported. The fact of the matter is, which brings me to point number three, if we don't like what President Trump is doing, and we don't like that people are getting deported in front of our eyes, you should be marching down to Capitol Hill and you should be applying pressure to your congressional leaders to change the law.
And I just watched a CNN segment on a new app called ICE Block, and it kind of appeared to be promoting this app where you can tell people where ICE agents are. Given the recent rise...
An app that tells people where ICE agents are?
Yes. And given the rise, I believe, 500% increase in assaults on ICE agents, I wanted to see if you could comment on that and why CNN would be promoting such an app.
Well, it's a very good question. I'll have to go back and watch the clip myself, but surely it sounds like this would be an incitement of further violence against our ICE officers. As you know, as you stated, there's been a 500% increase in violence against ICE agents, law enforcement officers across the country who are just simply trying to do their jobs and remove public safety threats from our communities. And that's something we as Americans, including journalists at CNN who live in many of these cities where illegal aliens are hiding and were let in from the previous administration, should be very grateful for. So we haven't seen the clip. We'll take a look at it, but certainly it's unacceptable that a major network would promote such an app that is encouraging violence against law enforcement officers who are trying to keep our country safe.
This is another story and another reaction to what ICE is doing that is going to continue to obviously cause problems for the agency, because ultimately they're just doing what the law it tells them to do, deport people who are here unlawfully. And as a result of these sanctuary city policies and how much they've gotten in the way of ICE being able to do their job, it is now being reported today that the Trump administration is suing the city of Los Angeles for doing just that. Take a listen.
Well, the Trump administration just filed a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles, arguing its sanctuary policies are illegal and asking that they no longer be enforced. This suit argues that LA's sanctuary policies violate the Supremacy Clause by intentionally discriminating against the federal government by treating federal immigration officers differently from other types of law enforcement. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, commenting, saying, quote, sanctuary policies were the driving cause of the violence, chaos, and attacks on law enforcement that Americans recently witnessed in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and so due to our politics, tribalism, and misinformation, there are a lot of people who hate ICE agents when really they shouldn't. They are doing the job that they are supposed to be doing. They are following the law. They're not just rolling around, picking people up left and right for funds. I mean, they are planning a lot of this out. Again, if we don't like it, then we should be advocating Congress to change the law. Now, here is an example of where News Nation was actually on site when they were executing one of these operations, particularly at a Home Depot. Take a listen.
Obvious question here then, are these agents, as they do go after the so-called worst of the worst, are they still rounding up people on the streets, at Home Depots or establishments like that?
Yeah, so some of those Home Depot operations are still happening. That's what they're calling this at-large enforcement. That is something that they're doing as we speak across LA County and other areas across the nation. And so we were actually there when they did one of these operations. And statistically, the individuals that they arrested, they had criminal history. 2 out of 3 had pretty lengthy criminal history. One individual, the first individual, this man, he was 67 years old, a Mexican national here illegally. He'd been removed at least 6 times, was actually convicted of lewd acts against a minor under 16 years old 10 years ago. So he was 57 years old when he committed that heinous crime, and he was running from Home Depot. So that was one individual that they apprehended while we were with them. Another individual, he had been deported 2 different times, and he resisted arrest, and the agent was considering pressing charges against that individual. And then the third individual also resisted arrest. He had to be pepper sprayed. So again, this, as we're seeing the assaults against agents and officers rise by 500%, Nicole. So something really showing what they're up against out here. But again, statistically, even the ones they're finding at Home Depot, a lot of those are gotaways, people who aren't even in the system. Those are the individuals that they're also going after because statistically, they too have some criminal history. Nicole.
All right. So then my question to people who are so critical of ICE and these deportations, what is your response to that particular story? What is your response if it is proven, according to News Nation, that 2 out of the 3 people hanging out at Home Depot in these situations have a criminal record? The other thing that you have to consider is, like she said, they're gotaways, so they don't even know who these people are. So should we just leave them alone and let them stay there and potentially run the risk that another American citizen could be violated by one of these individuals? I'm not saying all of them are criminals, but what I am saying, there are criminals. So hopefully people are seeing the full picture and they're not buying into the propaganda, and they're realizing what the source of the issue really is. It's not what ICE is doing. It's that the laws that Congress has passed are being executed finally. So let's get your guys' reaction to both of these stories in the comments section below, starting with the fraud, waste, and abuse that continues to take place in Medicare and Medicaid. You know that people like Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren cries every day about DOJ and how they have access to our personal data. Clearly, that's nothing compared to what's been happening under this operation that the FBI was able to stop. We're talking almost $4.5 billion worth of fraudulent payments that was supposed to be paid out via Medicare this year. Let me know what you guys think about all of that in the comment section below. And then this entire situation with this mobile app that will tell people if ICE agents are in the area, which clearly is going to assist them in evading arrests. Clearly, in some cases, will probably cause more violence to take place. And once again, this is ICE experiencing more resistance. Let me know how you feel about that mobile app and more by putting your thoughts in the comments section below. Now, over the weekend, CNN finally, and I mean finally, had to painfully admit how successful President Trump's month has been. From his border crossings to what's happening in the Middle East to certain negotiations, trade agreements. I mean, the experts who continue to say that he was going to be wrong and the economy was going to crash, they are now publicly coming out and acknowledging that the president is right. And I think you're going to want to see this for yourself. So if you're interested in that story, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.